Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Euro Trade. I'm your host, Mark Stalker D, and I got a little bit stuck just doing some things over here, mapping up levels, and then I was like, oh no, I'm supposed to be streaming. So yeah, let's just continue with that. I am trying to get my levels on copper. So where was I? I was doing the COMEX value high for copper, which is located at 64.90, 63.90. Get your glasses, D. 63.90. Okay, that's COMEX. Buch. Now, if you're new here, I have been trading for 18 years, and 13 years out of that, I've spent working for various prop firms, specializing in some of the more alternative products, such as precious metals, energy markets. That means RBOB, crude oil, natural gas, heating oil, but also copper, platinum, gold, silver. So you will see some products that are not particularly well represented elsewhere. We're trying to educate you that there are other products out there. Right, so 8-year low, 56.95. And then do I have 8-year high? I do. And that's located at 64.76 or 75, because it's all just 5-tick increments. All right, so I have some levels here. All right, so I do have my bot on gold that is functioning correctly. But I'm still working on 3 other bots, and one of them, well, 2 of them are actually copper. So I still haven't seen how they execute the orders, even though in theory I've matched what I've done with the gold trade control to be very similar, if not the same. But again, we need to test this because I don't know whether it's going to work properly, and we always need to test the bots in a safe environment before you unleash them onto any kind of live account or an XFA. Oh, Nick for a tick is here. He goes, why am I awake? I don't know, Nick. Is the baby keeping you up? Well, good to see you. It's been a while. It's been a while. Nick is awesome. I always enjoyed his jokes. I think some people never got that Nick was joking a lot of the time. But yeah, good to see you, mate. All right, let's have a look at what we have. So I don't know if I should maybe modify this to be a little bit looser, because obviously I have a strategy that trades at a very particular time of the day. But just for the sake of order testing, maybe I should loosen that up. That means I need to change a few things. Should I change it on the fly while I'm streaming? God, I've turned into such a nerd again. Yeah. All right, let's have a look at who else is in chat. Now, obviously, before we get into any sort of levels and stuff, just know that everything you see here is for educational purposes only. While I am Series 3 qualified, I'm not a CTA, so I cannot tell you what to do, where to buy, where to sell. You have to know what you're doing with your own trades, follow your plan, but use these videos to see how others are doing it, right? And what sort of levels we're using, the approach, and all of that good stuff. Right, so let's start maybe with gold, because I know a lot of people like to trade gold. Always starting on a large time frame, just to see the overview of where we are, what is happening. Right, so post FOMC, 25 basis points cut. Gold went into a pullback, straight into that range that we were stuck in for a few days briefly. Do we have this reversal as a committed reversal? Well, it's a 2-bar reversal, but, you know, is the gold going to just use that as another pullback and smash into an all-time high? Yeah, that's very possible. Are we going to have a bit of a relief sell-off of some sort? That's also possible. And the context of the day is going to tell us. Now, since the basis cut of 25 points was pretty much expected, I'm not really seeing any major changes in any markets. Equities are going into a little bit of a run up, but nothing fierce, nothing that will go, wow, we now need to like massively reprice. And, you know, if we take the idea that equities are going up, maybe there's some value in looking for gold shorts, but be very careful with that outlook, because that correlation, negative correlation between equities and gold is not always there. It's usually only there if you have something like a monetary policy speech going on, and, you know, obviously the rate decision could be a factor in the negative correlation maybe appearing today between gold and equities. But so far I'm not really seeing that. Okay, so I'm not really seeing that. I'm seeing, actually, let's put a little correlation quotient. Yeah, so the correlation at the moment is not negative at all. In fact, it's a correlation of 0.5 between gold in relation to ES. So they're kind of almost going in the same direction. But if that changes, obviously then whatever equities are doing, if you're trading gold and equities and it's a negative correlation by a factor of 1, then you're double exposed, right? So you're basically trading the same move across 2 different products. So be very careful doing that. I don't think people pay enough attention to how much exposure you might have if you're trading multiple products. And yes, most of you will just trade one thing, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah. Right, so 12 add neg A, that's a name. I'm long gold from 36.77, 1 micro. 36.77. Okay, so you caught it from a demand. That's nice. I'm guessing, oh, what did I do there? I'm guessing you were probably awake in Asia, because for me, when that price was trading, I was still in bed. So yeah, I cannot wake up for the life of me before about 8, 9 o'clock, and never been much of a morning person. So me doing any sort of trading at 7 a.m., you can pretty much forget about it, because even if I try, I'm A, not going to remember it, especially if I'm doing trading before coffee, and B, I'm not going to be making very good trading decisions because I'm half asleep. So yeah, but good on you. You caught the nice reversal into Eurex Open. So say, you know, similar thing that we do with LME overnight lows and stuff, that where I look for a reversal and then I fade the move. This was a similar thing. So we have Eurex tries to go down, doesn't really manage to get any traction, and then eventually London kicks off and they take it into the opposite direction. So yeah, for now, for me, I'm just going to be watching gold because I think this is a little bit too high up. If I look at where the overnight low is located now, from my perspective, trading at this time of the day, we've already traversed nearly, well, I would say about 3/4 of the Asia range. And for me, the next point of interest would be up at 37.06. I really need to get those reading glasses, man. Like, my eyes are going. So maybe a false breakout at a reversal or a further move up. But at this point, I don't actually have anything at these levels until we go up even further. And once we get to the overnight high, as I'm calling it, it's actually slightly lower than that. We also have the exhaustion point of average daily range high sitting right above it at 3708. So that is 100% a point of interest for an exhaustion move. Now, if we're going to end up in an outlier day, what I want to see is at least a 15-minute candle sticking above it, above that whole area, then maybe retesting that overnight high and then using it on a back test to bounce it for a further up move. The why is that wrong? Hold on. Something's moved. 63.90 is supposed to be my COMEX value. How did that get moved? I don't know. So 60. Oh no, that's copper. All right, I'm officially losing it now, guys. Okay, I'm looking at copper. I'm going, man, that's too high. Yeah, wake up, T. 73.23. Yeah, that was correct. Oh God. I'm still not awake. I've been doing like 12-hour coding, so I'm a bit loopy today. At least makes for a good tradertainment, right? Fractal Firmament is asking me, D, is that just a normal volume panel on the lower half of my screen? Yeah, so this little volume area here, let's make it bigger. Just regular old volume. Why? Because when you have trending moves, you can look at that volume to see whether it's maybe rising, whether it's doing a bit of a shakeout move, which usually is more indicative of false breakouts at the points of the overnight highs and overnight lows, or whether it's a true breakout with a sustained increase in volume over time. So that's how I look at it. But the shakeout volume is usually, let me see if I can find that as an example. So what tends to happen, let me find a good example. All right, so this is one of them. So you have this big move up. Let me see if I can, how can I make this volume bigger? All right, so what we are looking at, can you see that? Okay, yeah. So whenever something is going to reverse, more often than not, you're going to get this massive volume bar sort of out of nowhere. Look at the size of that volume bar in relation to the previous volume bars. So it's like nothing, 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 smash! That's usually not a true breakout, right? Because it happens too quickly. It means that somebody pops some stops and then you're looking for a reversal. And very soon after that, you get another attempted push up, but that fails. And then you get this huge reversal that really never comes back to the top. It just kind of rolls over and keeps going. So that's one of the things that I look for if I'm looking for a false breakout. And I know many people will be breakout traders, and they almost look for this volume to be indicative of some new volume that's just suddenly come in out of nowhere. So here's the thing. True breakouts usually have sustained gradual volume in the run-up to whatever level they're going to break, because you need that momentum in order to keep going past the inflection point, if that makes sense. So for example, you see this one that starts off slow, but we're trickling down, trickling down. This is Asia, right? This is Shanghai Exchange waking up and then just deciding to take it lower and lower and lower. And look at the volume. It's all red and then slowly growing, and then picking up speed. That's what you want to see. So you don't want to see these like exhaustion volume candles that are just like nothing, 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 nothing. Boo! Market makers, boo! So yeah, hopefully that's useful for a volume read. And what's beautiful about that is that you can actually code that to scan for the way I do it. I code it as the volume bar to be bigger by at least 1.7 times than all of the other bars over the moving average. So that's one way. Someone is asking me, what are you coding? I am trying to translate what we do in my other business with our trading bots into Topstep, but obviously they don't want to work on just my account on Topstep. So I'm doing it all alone and lonely. So yeah, so I had to go back into coding and it's been lovely. I've got to say I'm really enjoying it, and I don't know what it is about some of us, being stuck in a corner for 12 hours, just you and Python. Not a snake, by the way, just in case someone's not a coder and they've never heard of a coding language. But yeah, I'm right now working on a main app so I'm trying to make everything quite modular so that I can switch out bots as and when required. It's still very early days. I've only been at this for maybe 3 weeks, and I've come up with a library that has different constructors, and I'm making sure that all the orders are being entered correctly and that it's executing the correct logic, because sometimes you write something up and you think it's all right, and then you run it and you're like, why is that target not where I thought I put it? And once I have the shell of the main bot that is kind of working, I do use AI to help me create more of them. And that's been an interesting exercise. I use Cursor AI that's running Claude Sonnet. It took a while to develop these like memory things where, it kept trying to give me its own methods, right? So I have a complete library that I've done for it. And then I tell it to use that library, and it just goes, oh yeah, I just coded up something that I think will work. And I'm like, I did not ask you to do that. What are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. Did you mean this library? I'm like, dude. Yes. But now it seems to have kind of sorted itself out. And every time I give it a task, there is this like memory area that says the user prefers to use the ready-made production libraries rather than experimental methods. And I was like, experimental meaning nonsense API calls that you just make up out of nowhere. Okay, let's call them experimental. Sure. But yeah, I see that it has like quite a lot of things about my preferences and what I asked it to do in the past. But the interesting thing is that it doesn't remember chats. So when you're starting up from a brand new chat, you do have to give it context yet again with like files and stuff, and be pretty detailed in like what sort of prompts you're giving it and exactly what it wants to, what I want it to do. Now, if you don't do that, it gets a bit confused. So confused.com on the AI, and gets itself into a whole bunch of trouble. It also does some very basic errors, like some imports are just not imported, and I'm like, well, what are you doing? Or it doesn't put the source path in the beginning of the code, which is kind of basic, right? Yeah, just things like that. So, I've moved into the 21st century. Granny D is down with the cool kids. But I'm not using it completely to write everything. I give it an example, and I have to do everything initially just to make sure everything is done in the right order. And then it just takes over. So that's worked for me pretty nicely so far. And yeah, right now we are running the app. So this is the output that I've got. Oops, what's happened here? Error detecting. Am I running this? Actually, hold on. I've got some errors. Oh, I know why. This is trying to look at the history bars. Okay, let's tackle that. Yeah, so this is another thing that I wanted to test. I have a way of getting history as the bot is running, but I need to be able to detect historical breakouts. So this is what I've been working on yesterday, and I am trying to use the retrieve bars, but I haven't done that correctly, so we'll see. So the historical, everything else works, but the historical detection doesn't for some reason. So let's see why. Let's see why. Let's explore what is happening and stop it from running. Any other errors? So this is what you become. You just become a bug chaser. I'm getting some errors about the dashboard. I don't know how to make dashboards. I tried and it was just, I hate anything related to GUI. I really like, oh no, HTML and JavaScript. Kill me now. Yeah, but so the rest of it is working nicely. So I'm just looking at the logs that it gave me. So this is one of the bots. It's going to kind of give me the status update. So it's establishing the Asia range for gold. Tells me what I should probably make this a round number, but we'll get to that later. And then at the time it was telling me what the current price is and where the price actually was. When was this? It was 9:50. So it was about 5 minutes ago. That's the thing that it said. So we basically traversed 77% of the Asia range, and that's already too much. Too deep into the range for me to be looking for longs, because everything else is gone, right? Paul says her range trading goal in 30 minutes from 7 a.m. up 300 ticks, 30-minute range. I have 2 micros running along with a profit stop of another 50 ticks. A great start to my day, just 2 MGC in the XFA. Yeah, that's what's great about gold, because it has so many tickage for a range. Even if you're trading 1 or 2 micros, it can actually reward you pretty nicely because it trends. You know, it's a trending market. Bjorn wants to know, he says, I code with vanilla chat GPT, keeping a context window such pain. I know, right? Like, they need to change that. It's really, like, every time I want to shut down everything, because, you know, sometimes I actually want to shut down the computer, right? But then it loses all context. And you're like, oh, great, now we start again. Oh, joy. Yay. Wagging my tail. Thanos is saying, Dia, you're writing code in Python. Yeah, so I'm a Python coder. I have, my team is C#. They're all C#, and they hate me. But I don't know. I think for trading, because there's so many ready-made libraries, and I think Python and R are the 2 languages that are very good for data collection and aggregation. So to me, that kind of makes sense. So back in the day, probably about 10 years ago, I did do some courses. So initially I did just a basic course. Now, to put things in context, I've been a nerd my entire life, right? I started doing, first I was a music nerd. So I started that when I was 4. And then by the time that I was 13, I was already messing around with Atari. God, I'm so old. Does anyone remember Atari? Or are people much younger here? I know that some of you might, but yeah, Atari was a laugh. How long have you been trading versus trading with Topstep? Mark Trader wants to know. I've been trading for 18 years, kind of coming up to 19 years, which is going to be in, I think, February next year. And I've been with Topstep in some shape or form for about 10 years. So I found them upon my return from Chicago, where I did my first apprenticeship. And then I spent some time looking for companies in London. Didn't really find any that I resonated with, but I did stay with one of them for like a year. And then I really didn't like the way London was doing prop trading. I really didn't. I thought that they were too like Forex focused, and I wanted a futures firm. So I looked to see whether there's any way that I can find a remote Chicago prop firm in 2015. And I found Topstep. They were the only ones back then. Signed up for the combine. I think it took me maybe a couple of combines to get the rules down, even though I already had metrics in my other jobs. So it wasn't like, oh my God, what's this? How do I do this? I already had a pretty decent idea of how to do an eval. It was an entirely different game back then, but long story short, I became the first female funded trader ever. So my relationship with Topstep goes long way. A long way. And at the time, Hogue was my risk manager. That's how I got to know Hogue really well, because we were just chatting all day, every day, ferociously. We also had we also had a market profile lab, which he was running. So he deepened my understanding of market profile and how to use it in real time. And then we discovered that he was the former musician. I was trying to get out of the music industry, and I was finding that we had just like, it was just easy to talk to him, and anytime we started chatting about anything, we had so many common experiences, you know, trading, music, and I don't know, eventually it turned into a friendship. So yeah, that was very nice. I got to meet Eddie as well. Coach Hoop was in there too back in the day, and we had Squawk Radio. So every so often I was a guest on Squawk Radio. Like you see some people like jumping into Topstep live broadcast, and they're like, oh, it's a guest, we've never seen them before. Well, that's how it was for me on Squawk Radio. And then when Squawk Radio went away, I was very sad, because it was a great thing to have. So then bringing back to that kind of a tradertainment side of things, it was amazing. So over the years, I was a panel for them on various streams that they did. You know, it wasn't like this. It was just like, oh, let's just do a panel and then talk. So yeah, there was a relationship there of like content creation, I suppose. And yeah, so they invited me to be a part of TopstepTV, literally like 2 weeks after TopstepTV started. And then eventually I got my own show. So, yeah. Tatiana is asking me, what do you think about Axia Futures? So, Axia Futures started off a little bit sketchy. For a while, those of us who were over here, we weren't really sure whether it's a boiler room, I'll be honest. But I think over the years, they've started improving on their program. They started teaching some very valid concepts. So they're okay, you know, they're okay. But yeah, I've never worked for them or anything like that. So I was with Amplify briefly back when they were running a prop firm. I think they sort of pivoted that away from the prop firm, and now they're just like apprenticeships for banking. That's what they do. So they have a lot of relationships with banks, and they get interns. But yeah, so limited knowledge about Axia, but we kind of all know about it, but I never really found. I ended up working for a company that was a privately owned company, but they were sort of under the First New York ownership. So that to me was much more credible. Let's catch up on the chat. Where were we? Just Love says, I only trade NQ and natural gas, but I'm looking for a specific asset at a specific time, like euro-dollar. Oh, please no. Euro Forex in general, to me, is just meh. They were great. Like forex pairs were amazing before the European austerity measures. And then I just watched it year after year having like 40 tick range for the 24-hour period. I can't trade things that have a 40 tick range. I'm sorry. I'm just, ugh. Every time I see something with a tiny range, I'm just like, this is going to be very painful. So I want my products that I trade to have at the minimum like 150, 180 ticks. So the average range committed day after day, not just like 40 ticks, 50, 40, 50. Then whoop, we went to 200 ticks. No, it needs to be an average range that occurs on most days. If I don't have that, I don't want it. I don't need it. I'd rather go stick pins in my eyes, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, so this is why I moved away from Forex. I think it's livened up a little bit in the last few months after the trade wars. But I mean, let me have a look at Euro futures, just see where we're at. Because at one point I was like, oh, okay. But then I looked at it on the next week and it was still just a dead horse. Dead fish swimming with the stream. I think I need to enable. I don't even have it enabled in my symbols. That's how rare. That's how rarely I look at it. So I don't want a micro. So what would that be on CQG? Let's see. U6. December, there it is. Let me load it up. So the first thing that I always do is to see what sort of ranges we're working with. And in the spirit of keeping this pretty quick, I'm going to bring over my charting. Okay, so what do we have? Oh. So it's a little better. It's a little better, but it's still vastly below the 150, 180 ticks that I require. London session, which is its main session, 95 ticks. 95 ticks. Now, the way I do my stops, I scale them to the volatility of the product. So for me, I prefer to use a stop of about 30 to 40 ticks on a lot of the products. But that is also scaled to the instrument. So for example, gold is more along the lines of 70 to 100 ticks because it moves 350, 400 ticks. So, you know, you have to like accommodate the wiggles because I like to catch bigger moves that can survive the whipsaws for longer. But this one, if I needed to trade, I would, oh God, I would have to use a absolute maximum stop loss of like 23 ticks. And that's like the maximum stop loss, right? So I can't go over that. Otherwise, I won't have enough space for a positive risk reward. So yeah, that's like, I call that the ick factor on the range. So no, I do not like Forex. I left Forex and I've never looked back. So I left Forex in 2013. And yeah. I think it's good for certain things, like maybe if you're gonna do forwards or something, that could be an option. But that's an entirely different product and asset class. They're usually OTC contracts between like two different parties. And from what I remember when I did the IAD, they can be negotiated between the two parties to a pretty specific detail. Fractal Firma says, do you do wine festivals in there? What, in England? Don't think we grow many grapes here, mate. It's a bit too cold, I think, to be growing grapes. I mean, Spain, yes, I think so. In Spain, you have like wineries and stuff. France as well, but I am in England. Very wet. kind of cold, but not that cold. So, and a little bit hot sometimes, but doesn't last long. So that's not very conducive to growing grapes, I don't think. But yeah, no, we don't do wine festivals. We have binge drinking. So every St. Patrick's Day, there's a lot of Irish and Englishmen crawling around. But that doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be a holiday for that to happen. It's just a normal weekend over in London. Yeah, binge drinking is like our English national identity. That and football hooliganism. Oh God, I'm just joking. I'm not being serious, obviously. Yeah, there are a lot of drunk people though. That part is true, but it's very casual over here. I come from Serbia originally. I'm not a natural born, like I'm a naturalized British citizen. So my country was Serbia, where they drink ale that's like 70% proof, very, very strong. So, over here I don't find it that odd to see just casual alcoholism happening, because we have a lot of that in former Yugoslavia as well, like throughout the entire region. That's just a normal thing. In fact, every time somebody comes to do your, like, the birthday or holiday or something, they bring you the ale, and it's like considered a huge honor. It's like, I brought you rakia. And it's like, oh, great, thanks for trying to trash my liver, as if I haven't done that enough on my own, but thank you. Very thoughtful. So yeah, but wine festivals, I mean, if we had wine festivals, that could turn probably into a riot of some sort, where like drunk people are just causing public disorder. It wouldn't be like particularly civilized, I don't think. It's just my opinion, but yeah. But I love the UK. I think it's awesome. That's why I stay here. It's my country of choice. Let's have a look at the in the chat. Thanos says, I'm a developer in C# too. Yeah, the brilliant thing about TopstepX API is that it's not language specific, right? So you have just the API calls, and if you can, package them up in a JSON payload, if you should know how to do that. I mean, if you code in any language, really, it's like the basic of passing information. You can use C# if that's your language of choice. There is no restriction. You don't have to use Python at all. It's just, to me, it's easier because I know a lot about coding, and I can create bots and stuff to a pretty decent high level, but I wouldn't consider myself like, oh, I'm a professional coder. I'm just an amateur, Maybe if I was younger and I could apply myself and had more time to, really kind of hone in on everything, yeah, maybe that could have been an option. But for me, trading was far more exciting and far more of a challenge, where you effectively have an equation without a seemingly obvious solution. And there's not just one solution, but there's multiple, all time-based dependent. So that fascinated me, and I needed to know everything about everything. And my knowledge and situational awareness is based on that, because I wanted to understand what is actually happening and what are the probabilities of an outlier day, what are the probabilities of a range-bound day, what are the probabilities of a breakout. And then I just worked on that ferociously for the last 18 years. And I continue to learn. I hope I never stop learning, because, once you stop learning, and once you stop thinking that trading is a never-ending puzzle, I think then you probably shouldn't trade anymore, because there's always room for improvement, always. Fractal firmament. Do you not mean C hashtag? Oh God, is that what we're calling it now? So it's not C sharp, it's C hashtag. Please tell me that's not true. I've not heard of that one. That's funny though. That's really funny. It's like, what do you do? I code. I can imagine like somebody who learned how to code from like TikTok or something. It's like, what do you do? I'm a C hashtag coder. I'm going to start using that now. What's the language? C hashtag. And Fractal Firmament says, I am old enough for Atari. Awesome. So, Topstep also says, yep, grew up. Yeah, I mean, that was the very first computer. Well, no, it wasn't the first computer. The first computer was Commodore 64, which I also used. You remember the tennis game? Which was like literally just a dot. Or no, it was a little thin square line sort of thing. And then you had a dot. And it was going bunk, bunk, bunk. So, yeah. I am very old. Like rotary telephones were a thing when I was a kid. Not very old, you know. It's I still, you know, in my head I'm still like 19, right? But yeah, I will be 45 in December, so. And my hair is. I've decided. Did I tell you guys? I've decided to grow out my gray hair, so I'm gonna look very weird. In the coming days, or coming months, I am kind of considering if it starts looking too weird. I do have one of those like sprays where you can just cover it up, just in case it starts looking unsightly, because it looks horrible when you're growing it out, and I don't really want to dye my hair anymore. I just find it such a hassle. My hair is very long, and this is all my hair, right? This is not fake. And, you know, with my health conditions and stuff, I just cannot be bothered anymore. So I decided to go au naturel. And maybe the hair might be the only thing that where people will realize that I'm not 25. Yeah, Mark Trader says, D is 25 with 18 years experience. That's what I heard. Yeah, I started trading when I was still a child. As soon as I learned how to read, I also started trading. In fact, I didn't go to school. I just started looking at charts. Yeah. Because that makes sense. All right, so we are coming up to the overnight high, still not touching it. I still have my bots set up to look at 11:40 and after, so we are still ways away. I would like to change that, but I don't want to. So here's what's going to happen. So on Monday, I actually have to take one of my dogs to get the snip. So she is having her ovaries taken out. It's a smaller surgery. And I'm driving back to London because I'm only now developing the relationship with my new vets in this new area because we bought a new house and the house is beautiful. I love it. But I kind of have, like the main guy, the main vet, I'm like, yeah, you're awesome. But he would not be doing that surgery. So I didn't even meet the other vet. And quite frankly, the receptionists are being a little bit of an a-hole. So they're horrible. Like you walk in there and they're almost like, why are you here? And I'm like, Jesus, man, okay. And yeah, you know, I have dogs that bark at other dogs, but then they sort of settle, but they're still like, oh, like they're rolling their eyes at me, and I'm like, oh, that's lovely. So you work at a vet's office where dogs and cats are a normal thing, and you're annoyed by a barking dog. And she kept doing that not just with my dogs, but there was this little like Chihuahua thing, and the owner was holding her, and she was going off on one of my dogs, and the receptionist was also rolling her eyes at that. And I'm like, are you just having a bad day? Like, what is that all about? Just look a little bit more cheerful. And I don't know, something is like not really gelling there for me. So I decided to go to my old vet. So when we were talking about this show being in a new time slot, that is still going to happen, okay? When? Probably maybe in another week's time. But next Monday, because I already thought, because it was 2 weeks ago when I did that, and we were planning to make the show go at a new time at 11 a.m., which is 5 a.m. Yeah, 5 a.m. Central, instead of the 3:30 slots that we're in right now, just to be closer to that London Metal Exchange Open, and just because that is the time of the day when I trade metals. This was the time of the day when I traded DAX. We never got DAX, and then just it doesn't make much sense to keep this time slot. Because every so often you will get gold that goes into a trend and then continues, but that's not the norm. Like, you've sat here with me where we're just in a range for like 2.5 hours on gold. And to be truthful, I've never actually traded gold for this time of the day. Never. I've always been like, oh yeah, seven years ago I started trading DAX, and DAX was the product for this time of the day. But no DAX, it means what am I going to do? Like, sit here for another year or so and just not have DAX and watch paint dry on most days. So yeah, we all agreed, the entire team agreed that there's not much sense in keeping this time slot. So we're working on sort of rebranding the show to be more metals focused, right? But next Monday, because of the scheduling boo-boo that I have, and I'm going I'm going to be driving to London at the time when the Euro trade is supposed to be happening. So we agreed to do the Euro show later. So I'm not going to have the assets, and then I don't know whether we're going to go back to the 9:30 slot for next week, and fingers crossed, the next week after that, we should be ready with the new marketing, the new splash screen, and the intro and everything in 5 a.m. slot, right? So yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but I didn't think that it's going to take 2-3 weeks for us to get the assets done. And to be fair, I did give them an additional request. So we're using one of my rock songs as an intro. I never really had an intro for this show, and I asked them to create one. I said, it's my song, so no copyright or mechanical copyright issues. And if you want, let me know. And they were like, yes. So now I'm guessing they need to, mess around with that. But yeah, so maybe it's partly my fault for giving them more things to do. But yeah, I would rather have it all nice and ready to go. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. They'll let you know when the actual time change is happening. But next Monday, we did agree that I'm going to do the 5 a.m. slot, which is 11 a.m. in the UK. So yeah. Which part of London do you live? I don't live in London anymore. I lived in London for 23 years or so. I was, first I was in Harrow, which is up north, in northwest London, because I did my music production university degree there. Then I moved to Canary Wharf, sort of East India Quay, because I had a residency in one of the clubs there. And also it was pretty close to the city airport and stuff. So this was a long, long time ago. And then I met my husband, my now husband. So he lived in Battersea, and I moved to Battersea in 2005. We stayed there for 20 years. And then last year, well, actually 5 years ago, we decided that we wanted to move out. But we had a Victorian place that was beautiful, but small. And then we got 8 dogs about 3.5 years ago. So it became very, very small. And we decided that we're going to exchange our primary residence for a countryside place. So it took a while, took 6 months, but we managed to move. And now I live in Surrey. I'm not going to say exactly where, but let's just say it's the border of Surrey and West Sussex. So, ballpark area. All right, so the volume here is pretty steady. This could be a real breakout. but it does depend whether they jump suddenly and then turn around. So let's wait. But for now, this is all just a steady increase in volume. So we may be looking at an ignoring. What am I trying to say? We're looking at ignoring ADR high and the overnight high, and maybe pulling back and then continuing higher into a single direction day that at this point is going to turn into an outlier day. So unless it's like COMEX open, it's a little wobble to the opposite side, I might use that to get in on a trade. And of course they can do the exhaustion candle at any point, right? But just by the fact that this volume is so even, all of these are just very nice even volume, slowly growing. I would err on the side of this being a true breakout now above the overnight high. So we'll see. So yeah, I used to live in Battersea. I was a Wandsworth resident for 20 years. And now I'm, what do they call this borough here? Waverley, I think it's called. And it's very different. I've got to say, I find it a bit, like it's almost like moving into a mini different country, because London is its own, you know, its own kind of worms, and it's got very efficient sort of council tax services. You know, you have the bin collection and everything. And over here it's like, well, we don't know if your bins are going to be collected this week. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, we're kind of short-staffed right now. So, you know, they might turn up, but they might not. So if they don't, we're sorry. But there is a recycling center near you. So, you know. And I just find that so funny that they're like so relaxed. And then also driving around in London, if you like stutter for a decision point at a roundabout for like literally a nanosecond, someone is going to be like, nah, 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 and go. Over here, I was going through my brain fog days, and I stuttered on a roundabout at like this supermarket area, and it's only a small road. And I just couldn't make a decision. I was like, should I go into I don't know. So I had a bit of a moment. No one batted an eyelid. They were just like, no problem. Just take your time. It's okay. They're all smiley. You know, they're like almost apologizing to me that I messed up in a roundabout situation. So I was like, okay, that's a bit different. And the way when you're like shopping around a supermarket in London, if somebody talks to you or gives you like eye contact or something, you'll be like, you're a psychopath. Oh my God, you're a serial killer. I'm going to die today. Over here, people just come up and talk to you. Like, for example, we were like shopping for a hand wash, like just nothing. So I'm talking to my husband. I was like, well, which one should we get? Because, you know, this one kind of dries out my hands and this one is a little bit better. And a totally random dude comes over and goes, oh, by the way, I really like this one because, you know, it's like good for the hands, but it also smells much better than that one. Like, and I was like, do you work here? And I realized he was just like a shopper, just like us, just randomly. Yeah. So to me, that's like totally out of the question in London. You just don't do that in London because there's way too many nutters. And over here, everyone's super friendly and chatty and really willing to help and everything. So yeah, I like it. Granny D likes it. Likes the whole countryside village vibe that we've got going on. Wes says, D unleashed on rock trading. Well, D was unleashed on rock trading many years ago, and D had a whole rock album ready to go, but then she went into trading. So that was the end of that story. But yeah, since I have those songs from back in the day, like, why not do something with them? And that song, actually, weirdly enough, before I left the music industry, I pitched it for, do you remember that show with David Duchovny? where he's like this writer, and he's like likes to drink and party and gets himself in all sorts of trouble. Well, it was actually a contender for one of the scenes that they were going to do in that show, but I don't know. Then I went into prop, and I just never really followed up on that, and it was kind of towards the end of my music adventures. I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, the music industry was just like, I'm over it. I don't want to be on tour buses and everything. All right, so let me see if I can maybe let's let me change the bot to try and enter this trade. So which one was that? Hold on. I need to get my brain back into code. This is going to kick me out now because I will need to reinitialize the bot. I want to see what the false breakout bot says. It's going to kick me out. Yeah. Okay. So if this ends the 5-minute chart time frame back inside the range, the way I do it, it should enter a short, but unfortunately I need to change the time. So let me quickly do that. What else is changing? Do I have entry window? So I'm going to try and force it into a trade here, even though it shouldn't trade this time of the day. But I might try and force it to end it. Let's try that. So for the breakout above the Asia high, I do use the 15-minute time frame to close the candle above it, and then the bot should enter it. But I've never tested that particular bot, so I want to see how it's going to behave. And do I have any errors anywhere? No, so that fix that we did earlier is looking like it's okay. So retest or fake out, yeah. So this is now a decision point. Usually I like to do these after LME opens because they work best at that time of the day. But I want to force it because I'm trying to see what's going on with the orders. I sorted out the false GC false breakout orders, but I don't know whether the other bots are able to actually behave themselves, because sometimes you get weirdness with the orders and you need to see how they work in real time. So I'm going to see if I can arm wrestle it to enter a trade here. We have 2 minutes until the 5 5 o'clock, and I need to reinitialize this again. So it's gonna knock me out again. Oh yes. Okay, so let's see if we can restart that. Okay. So every time, this is the only annoying thing, they only allow like one session. So every time I change something and reinitialize the bot, I always have to restart. Okay, let's see. Just gonna check for log messages. Now, there could be that I have a time window for trading, so this might not work. Because now I've only changed it to be 8 a.m. London. But maybe I need to change the window. So I can't remember how I coded that for this particular bot. Because I've got like 5-6 bots that I'm working on. Let me see. Actually, this is something I can use AI for. Oh, here we go. There we go. We arm wrestled it. There it is. So this is now the bot trading, not me. Okay. So there it is. GC false breakout, target order parameters. And you can see that the orders are not the orders that you see when you drag it up and down. But you see it as a separate order. But I do have the logic to cancel the other one. It's kind of like an OCO logic, but it's just done with individual orders rather than... So yeah, I arm wrestled it, guys. I arm wrestled it into entering a trade. Whether this is the right call, I don't know. But I just wanted to show you. Because right now, we've technically failed for now. It might just smash back up, which is fine. But yeah, that looks all right. And the target is set at 75% of the Asia range to the opposite side. So that is the strategy. So let's focus. Let's focus on this one because that one is trading. But yeah, okay, all good. One contract, one stop. Target looks right. I'm not getting rapid fire. I was really struggling with rapid fire orders. Oh my God. So then I tried to make it stop doing that, but then it kept like just blocking the next orders. I'm like, well, now you're blocking all orders. Like, what the hell? So I had to go back to some of my old bots to see how I did that because I forgot. And this is the thing, if you don't code for a while, you're like, how did I do this exactly? But yeah, we arm wrestled the bot to enter a trade. Very good. So yeah, just know that this strategy has a better outcome closer to LME. So yeah, but this would be something similar. So, you know, just move the time of day about an hour or hour and a half later, and you look for the same thing. Sometimes the overnight high or overnight low gets created literally just before LME. But that's also game for a reversal like this. It just so happened that this overnight high happened pretty much at the start of Globex. All right, so let's see what's happening with the volume. So volume was very, very consistent. I mean, I don't know. This still could be a breakout. But since it's a bot trade that I arm wrestled to execute outside of its normal trading window, I'm just going to leave it, right? Because I also want to see, for example, if the stop loss gets hit, does it actually cancel the target? That's the next thing I'm looking for. So, you know, when you're working on bots at this point, unless you know your strategy really well, you're going to get maybe slightly overwhelmed because you are now not only sure, like you're not sure about the strategy to begin with, but now you have to deal with all of this other logistical things about entering orders, how does the bot handle the orders, and you literally just become, you just literally become a bug squasher. And then if you're not sure of the strategy either, that to me would be extremely, extremely difficult. But yeah. I mean, this could still be a breakout. It could. So yeah, let's see if they can cancel, if my stop gets smashed. Let's see if it cancels the limit buy. But yeah, so far the bots are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, and if we go into a breakout, the signal for the other bot is to have 115. Trading Strategies Market is saying, what's the logic for your bot? Well, yeah. Isn't that proprietary? It's got some volume filters, but effectively it's just a fake out reversal. I'm not going to be giving you the entire logic because that's considered intellectual property. What is Globex trading hours? It is when Asia opens and then through the entirety of the day. So basically it's the full electronic hours from that open at my 11 p.m. and then all the way to 10 p.m. the other side. That's considered Globex. Overnight session. Globex is kind of synonymous with Asia, but it is technically under the covers. It's supposed to be the entirety of the electronic trading session. So not just the regular trading hours, but all of them, right? But in the recent years, we started saying Globex as an Asia replacement, right? So it's like Asia session equals Globex. Right, so now if it if it stays inside the range, it has a pretty decent chance of at least falling through the 50% here. My targets, based on some of the observations that I've had, it has a very decent target at 75% of Asia range. So to traverse all the way through it, basically a rotation through it. This happens more often than not. But if it starts to wiggle around at VWAP, then if I'm trading manually, I take it. However, this is a bot test, so I have to let it do whatever it's going to do. Right, a bit of a consolidation happening on the 5-minute chart. I mean, we still have decent amount of volume, but at this point I would say that this is trying to go a little bit flatter. But yeah, first time seeing my bot executing a trader on a trader executing a trader. Yeah, with some of the VIPs, that's certainly an image to behold. Executing a trade on air. Yeah. Now the logs that I'm doing here is just to make sure that the real time things are coming in, but I don't want it cluttering up too much of the log. So I just process every sort of 1,000 or on HG, I think I process at least like 500, but on GC, because it has a lot more ticks and it's like more lively, it processes between sort of 900 and 1,500 quotes before it spews out a log. So just so that yeah, initially it was like giving me every single quote, and I was like, no. So yeah. Paul says, great to see the bots at work. Yeah. It's a different way of trading than manual trading, because obviously the bot is pretty rigid, whereas us as humans, we can change our decisions and logic on the fly. But with the bots, you have to do a medium ground between just enough conditions without overfitting, and just enough sort of risk reward and accuracy to capture most things, but not to completely filter out trades so that it like trades once a month or something. And the reason why I wanted to do this bot first was because it happens very frequently, right? It's false breakouts on gold are nearly every day. Today, post FOMC, I'm doubting whether this is going to be the right call here. But again, it's an order test, which is why I'm doing it in a combine. Yeah, nice to see it working, though. I mean, no rapid fire. It's not trying to block anything on the other side. It correctly identified an overnight high and a breakout, historical breakout. So that's the fix that I did in the beginning of the stream, because that threw up an error. But yeah. I mean, it's still trying to decide here. So if it's going to go into a breakout, I don't really want to see these selling wicks here. So we have a couple of selling wicks on the 15-minute time frame. So yeah. Let me just see what the other one is doing, because I do have the breakout Asia bot, but again, I haven't tested that one. Let me just see what it's doing. Pauline says, I was just thinking that some of the fast market chat should be targeted by that bot. Yeah, execute. I think Bruno does that, doesn't it? As far as it goes with with the with getting rid of people who are rude. Bruno does an amazing job, right? Right, we're falling back into the range now, so the bot seems to be correct here. For now, everything can change. So let's see. Yeah, that is not the one. So okay, so that is not the bot that I was wanting. Let me see. I want to see if I have the Asia breakout strategy working as well. Because this is the false breakout. But today, like I said, we're probably just pausing before we carry on higher. Yeah, I see it. Paul H says, I see it placing a stop market buy rather than a normal stop. Topstep would clean up the failed trade with a normal stop. Yeah, so there is no way to do those sorts of orders through the bot. They're all separate, which is why you're seeing the seemingly disconnected order, but it's not actually disconnected because I do have code that scans for the fills both sides, and if this is the code that I want to test, right? So I want the stop loss to be hit. What does the limit order get removed? So does it scan for that? Because I did the code, but I don't know whether it works or not, so we'll see. Let's see. This doesn't look right. Hold on. I need to name my bots in a better way, because I thought that I had one, or was that one on copper? I don't know. I need like a notebook. Right, it's still teasing that high. I mean, we have definitely grinded to a sideways movement here, at least on a 5-minute chart. Now, if the downside volume starts to rise, that will mean that we have a better chance of a rotation rather than a continued move, in which case this would put this day to a normal day. Nothing outside of the norm, because obviously Asia movement is, perfectly normal. But yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe because of the FOMC, we could just go into a single direction trend day, which could still happen. We need to see what LME does and what COMEX wants to do. Entirely possible that LME brings us a little bit of a wobble down, and then a partial rotation through Asia range, and it never actually gets to my level down here. But if it's a normal day, then we should see a rotation through majority of this Asia range. So yeah, it's still alive, guys. The trade is still alive. So the computer says yes. For now. I was kind of wanting it to hit the stop to see what the hell the orders are going to do, but I might have to wait for that. Yeah, no, Paul H, it cleans up. Yeah. So this is the thing. In all of my bots, the first thing that I do with the basic structure is to make sure the orders have that exclusion logic. So you can't just go, well, we've hit the stop and we just leave the buy limit. It has to update the order, and then it gives it a flag. So this is how I've done it. If it's the active trade, then it flags it as an active trade, and it then stops trying to enter more positions. If the trade is either reached the stop or the target, it then updates that and updates the flag that the trade is no longer there, and removes the other opposing side of things. So yeah. I'm pretty good with cleanup. I think that was probably one of the first things that I learned how to do, the OCO orders manually. And I found it really fun, actually, big nerd over here. I thought it was fascinating that I can update the order ID, and I'm like, okay, now we scan for the order, and then if the order is still there, we don't touch anything, but if the other side has been hit, then the other one needs to be cleaned up, and then everything has a daily reset as well. So after the trading is done, I clean up everything effectively, and we start all over again. Otherwise, if you leave, for example, the historical breakouts, I can't leave the breakouts from the previous day because there's a new range and there's everything new, right? So we have to do the daily reset, and then we start the whole cycle and the whole loop all over again. So I'm pretty good at that. This is why I say I'm very good at with utilities. Where I am not good at is if you have to point the arrays to a completely different part. I just get so confused with that, and I just go, I have no idea what I'm trying to do here. And then I try and look it up, and somehow in my brain it just doesn't, I have a high IQ, but I don't know, maybe it's just my music brain that was busy with other things, and I never learned it properly. This is where I say I'm not a real coder, right? So I'm just I'm pretty good for an amateur. But I know my place in that world, definitely. I would never like go, yeah, let me teach you coding. It's like, no, mate, let's learn together because I don't know shit either. Right, so we got about 7 minutes here before we're at time for the end of the stream. Flash Golden says, confirmation looks good once it hits 22 degrees, trend angle, downtrend. Trend angle, how do you look at that? What do you use to look at that? Lido says, D, where's your bug hat? It's here. Do you want to see the bug hat? It's always here, man. It's always here. Here's the bug hat. I haven't needed the bug hat for a while now. I've been doing like one trade per day, if that. Too busy with coding. Here we go. Get the eyes out. Can you see that? Yeah. No grasshoppering today. We are being very controlled, super commendable. I like the eyes, right? The eyes are so funny. Like, meh. Like grasshoppers don't, like the things on their front, they're not their eyes, are they? I had a grasshopper on my counter the other day. I was trying to prepare like dog food and stuff. It was dinner time, and my husband goes, ah! So I jump thinking like it's a spider or something because I don't like spiders. I will kill them, unfortunately, but I just can't handle them. But other bugs, like grasshoppers and stuff, I like them. I think they're cute. So I was like, what? Like, well, what is it? And he says, it's a grasshopper. So I was like, oh. It's not that big. It was about sort of this size. So I grabbed it by the legs. I chucked it out. I also had lizards. Like I had lizards for 19 years, and they eat locusts, maggots. You know, like pretty disgusting things. So I got used to handling them. Crickets are a little bit tough to catch. I gotta be honest. They were always a bit noisy as well. So we kind of went to like keto with the lizards. So they were on mealworms. No, not mealworms. Waxworms. That was a treat, and then they lived on locusts. And obviously they lived a really long life, so something worked. But yeah, for some reason I'm not freaked out by certain insects, whereas... And it's even like the color. I think if I see like black spiders, they're not good. But the light-colored ones... Like I saw a really big house spider that was like nearly cream colored. So I don't know what that's all about. I wasn't nearly as freaked out as so I don't know whether there's like an evolutionary thing in women where we're just wired to be afraid of black spiky tentacles that can hurt us. Yeah, it's an odd one for sure. Because it's like, why am I not afraid of other insects then? And like, anyways. I'm going off on one. It's the D losing track of things. Paul H says, I have a lot of programming history, but nothing for trading and new to Python. I mean, look, any programming language that you mastered, they're all very similar, you know. And if you've done something more complex than Python, it's going to be like nothing, like walk in the park. In fact, you will find it a little bit dumb. Because everything is done for you already. It's got libraries, it's got everything. You've got, you know, pandas, you've got NumPy, you've got all of these things that can like do a whole bunch of data aggregation without you having to lift a finger. So it's a lazy person's coding language for sure. And then the finance stuff, it's again bugs, you know, looking at the API calls and how does the computer, how does the machine actually interpret that, and is there anything that it's doing that it shouldn't be doing? So you just literally become like a QA. What I love about AI, I'm gonna say, I used to hate doing logs. Oh my God, that was like the bane of my existence. So every time I was trying to print something, I would be like, it does it perfectly. Like if it's good for anything, it's good for logs and logging. It's amazing. Like it adds emojis and it puts everything in there. And you're like, all right, okay. So I don't have to do that anymore. I'm very happy. Princess Simone says, I'm exactly the same about spiders. I live in Oklahoma where we have hundreds of species. Yeah, because it's hot in Oklahoma, isn't it? So I can imagine you guys have quite a lot of critters over there. In the UK, we don't have too many of them that are dangerous. We have like the false widow. And do we have any other dangerous ones? I don't know. I mean, maybe recently some species have been appearing from like, I think somebody saw a huntsman here, which is not really what we have here at all. We have these big, horrible house spiders. And one of the bastards went into our bed the other day. It crawled up over, because I left the door open for the dogs to go in and out. You know, obviously it's a bit of a pain with 8 of them. And the critter must have come in, right? So we were just like chilling out, watching TV. And the bed has quite a big headboard and like these other 2 pillows on top. So it's quite far away from our heads, luckily. But we're laying there. And Crichton, one of our dogs, goes, like he's very good at alerting us to this stuff. So I'm like, what is Crichton seeing? What is he seeing? And then I saw it. It was on top of the bloody headboard. So I was like, you bastard. Like, I thought they were running away from humans because of the vibrations and, you know, I don't know, a whole bunch of stuff. No, the bastard decided to come and say hello. It's like, squash. So yeah, I couldn't sleep after that. So this is why I was really tired at the beginning of the week. It was a spider. I didn't want to go back to bed until I was sure that it was dead and gone. And yeah. Ugh, I hate the things, honestly. Like, it's my bed. Get out of my bed. What are you doing? So unfair. Shay Hughes says, you're good at coding because you love bugs. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what is that, Simone? Like, what? Why? Why are we more afraid of black spiders than others? Like, even if I see tarantulas, I'm like, oh, you know, cute little paws and, you know, it looks almost like it is a pet, isn't it? It just doesn't look that scary. But black spiders, it's like, literally, there's something evolutionary going on there. Like, there's no way that that's rational. Yeah, loving bugs, a good coder, yeah. Bjorn says, Crichton, is that a reference to Red Dwarf? Yes, we have Rimmer as well. Yeah. Yeah, afraid of bugs. Good coder. Yeah, I'm afraid of bugs. Therefore, I look at squashing them in all sorts of ways. Yeah, so we have, most of our dogs are named by our TV shows. I love Red Dwarf. I don't have a Lister, primarily because one of our very, very good friends has a cat called Lister. So we didn't really want to encroach on that. So we have Crichton, we have Rimmer. We even have Astrid from Fringe. If you've ever watched a sci-fi show called Fringe, they have this mad scientist dude played by John Noble. And there's a character called Astrid. She's a very smart lady. And he keeps getting her name wrong. So he calls her Ostrich, Acid, Asterix, Astro. So we do that with Astrid as well. Who else do we have? We have Black Books. We have Manny, and we have Bernard, of course. Bernard is our biggest boy, so naturally he's Bernard Black, right? And we have Lisbon, who is from Mentalist, Agent Lisbon, but we call her Bon by Bon Scott, so she kind of has two references. Then we have Leonard from Big Bang Theory, and we have Seven Jerry is her full name, but 7 of 9 reference to Voyager Star Trek. Did I go through all the dogs there? Did I forget anybody? No, so I think that's all of them. Yeah, so all TV shows. All right, so I'm going to let this bot cook, do whatever it does. If it hits the stop, it's a great opportunity to see whether my OCO logic is working. Bruno, I think I did see Alias with Jennifer Garner. Yeah, I think I did. It wasn't too memorable for some reason, but it does kind of ring a name. If it's a sci-fi thing, it's 9 times out of 10 I would have seen it because I'm a massive sci-fi freak. Right now I'm watching For All Mankind, and it's a bit over dramatic. They love killing main characters, don't they? But I like it. Yes, CIA. Yeah. I don't know. I think I started watching it. Because it does ring a bell. I think I started watching it, but it was maybe a bit too action-y for me. I like anything like space-related, anything science-y, you know. I'm borderline Trekkie. Borderline Trekkie. All right, that's it for today. I will see you on Monday. It is Thursday today, right? Now, if you trade natural gas, because somebody mentioned it, just pay attention to the inventories, because natural gas has inventories usually on on Thursdays. In the meantime, have a wonderful weekend. And on Monday, I will do the show, which is still going to be probably Euro show, but it's going to be running at 5 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. UK time. Maybe just like to see as a test, to see whether we can get more people watching, because more people will be waking up at that time. And to be closer to LME, more importantly, because that is the time of day that is paramount for the developments of copper and platinum, and yes, gold as well. So that's all for me. Have a lovely day. I'm Marcus Stalker D. This has been the Eurotrade. Catch you in a bit.